Hi friends. If you want to check out how I do my makeup now versus before years ago, then please keep on watching. Hi, my name is Alicia. If it's your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I'm a fitness professional who loves things all movement and beauty. If you want to check out what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. Another collaboration. Look at me. This is in collaboration with the only one, Trina B. But before that, I was helping her out with her YouTube videos and just giving her tips here and there because, man, is it hard starting. And I remember when I first started and how overwhelmed I was with just like, what software do you use? What camera do you buy? What do you do? Like, it's a process. When she reached out to ask for my help, there was no question that I was going to help her out because it is so important that if we do have an opportunity to help someone thrive and just to help guide them in whatever endeavors they wish to accomplish, and especially if you are in the same field, then I'm all for it. Trina is also a singer, she is a mother, so definitely head over to her channel, show her some love and support. I will link all her, not only her channel link, but also her Instagram link down below, all in the description box. If you head over, say hello, Alicia sent you. So Trina, thank you so much for collaborating with me. This was her idea in terms of the video topic, and that is how we used to do our makeup before versus how we do it today. It is the topic that has been done before, but it's always fun to just reevaluate where you are makeup wise, life wise. And seeing my old videos, I think I did my makeup way too heavy. I was very much into the Instagram way of makeup, the concealer going from like lash line to nostril, right? And then carving under your bronzer, carving here, baking there. Now I'm a lot more light-handed, but I'm taking it a step further. Friends, not only will I revisit the old techniques I used to use, but I'm going to use my old brushes. You heard that right. One side will be with my favorite Japanese brushes. The other side will be with my older brushes that I'm giving some love because you know what? They had a role in this journey, okay? Even though I no longer use these brushes, it's all a process. They help me realize that there is something better out there. Don't mean for that to be shady, but yes, I know it is regardless. So one side will be the makeup techniques I used to do, and this side will be what I do now. So why don't we start in a little closer. That's enough. I moisturize with my Good Molecules Priming Moisturizer. So what I always used to do, actually the one standout difference between then and now is that I apply way more sunscreen at a more appropriate dosage. Before, I was not applying enough. I was actually relying on primer, which I don't anymore. My sunscreen is my primer because when I'm applying my makeup, I'm most likely going out somewhere where I'll be exposed to sunlight. So that is a very important step for me, which is why, although I'm inside and it's very gray, technically I should still have sunscreen on, but I am risking it all for you. I didn't put it on because I took off. This is like my third video today. I took off my makeup several times already, so I'm just trying to not put the actives on it. Are you gonna focus on me? Hello? I forgot what side I said. So we're just gonna start. Today we'll use the foundations, ABH foundation in 355 mixed in with a little of the Hourglass Vanish liquid. I used to use the Vanish stick. This was in my KENZA collaboration. Forgotten Loves makeup that we still technically love, but we just don't use anymore. They got pushed to the wayside. How I used to apply my foundation. Simply too much. I would rely on a pump's worth per side, whereas now I rely like half a pump for one foundation and half a pump from another foundation. So let's just take this on the old side. I always used to use a sponge. I definitely went between sponges and brushes. I think I switched sides on myself, it's fine. So I feel one pump for one side of my face. I actually would think this is too much now because although it's great coverage, I now rely heavily on my concealer to tackle any blemishes. Now what I do is take a little bit of my Hollywood Flawless filter. I never used to rely on a filter type of product to enhance the look of my foundation, I would go in with, let's say, the primer that I was using or moisturizer I was using. Now I'm like taking just a dot's worth of one foundation and then the other. So another standout difference is that I've been mixing a lot more, like a lot more. And then I'll take that mixture all over and not use as much. So I definitely build a lot more than I used to, whereas I would just slap on so much foundation at once and then I will have to buff it away because it was just way too much. So I go in pieces this time. I'm constantly adjusting the exposure today because it has been quite a gray day. It goes in and out of like gray and sometimes light, so it's very hard to keep up with. So this is the now side, this is the before side. Not much of a difference. Now we're gonna see the difference. I used to use Tarte Shape Tape. I know. I threw it away because it expired, it started to separate. Don't want to put that type of stuff on your face. For demo's sake, I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty Concealer. This is in the shade 310. I use way too light of a concealer and I used to do this. That was the look. And now what I do, I correct a little bit using my Shiseido gel concealer stick. This is in the shade 304 and I dab a little bit right under the eye where it's darkest so it could actually cancel that out. And now my new favorite concealer, which is the Giorgio Armani Power Fabric. Oh, hello, what happened to my son? That's all I put now. You see what I mean? Then I go in with the sponge. So let's go in on the light side first. This has been the extent of my concealer application in terms of the amount. Whereas this side, I mean, oh my goodness, I used to put on so much and it's so light. I'm like dabbing off the excess. I was very much influenced by Instagram makeup. I mean, till this day, you still see so many YouTubers apply this much concealer. I mean, it physically feels like I have a mask under my eyes right now. Look at the difference, and that's why I feel it's so important to use a formula that's lightweight but has really nice, I don't know if there's like light reflecting whatever in the Power Fabric concealer, but you can see it's brightening enough. I don't need to put a lot, and this is just like, it's too much. And even with the sponge, I feel like it's still not taking away enough. Powder. I used to be a believer of baking. I thought baking was really important to do. But you know what? Before we bake, I want to quickly, actually, I'm cheating. I used to use, in regards to brows, I used to use a darker pencil. Right now, I'm using the Benefit Goof Proof in 3.5 neutral. Before, I think I was using 4 or 5. The brows were way too dark. The brow color will be the same just because I don't have the older brow color. But what I'll do is I'm going to carve on top of my brow. This is something I used to do. I'll take the Fenty concealer again with my MAC synthetic flat brush. I used to go right over the edges. And it would be like such an intense highlight look. And usually for now, I just go in lightly under the brow. I don't even touch the top anymore. Absolutely not. So let's blend carefully on the top. I'll fill up my lid in a minute, but we just want to buff this in because we're going to go in with powder next. So you see how it makes it really intense? Like there's like this halo of light that just sits really awkwardly on my arch, whereas this just looks a lot more approachable and realistic. Laura Mercier. I used to bake with this all the time. Baking, it was all about the baking. We'll take a bunch of powder. Oh my God. I'll take my sponge. This was actually not even enough. I used to take a lot more than this. And I press it under my eyes. When I did the video with Kelsey, I actually really liked how the Laura Mercier powder looked when I applied it with a brush, but it just looks so heavy and crazily light right now. The powder of choice for today's makeup is my Hourglass, which I've been using non-stop. I take a very little amount, and instead of using a sponge, if I have to bake, if I know I'm gonna have a long day, I'll just lightly press extra powder right here. That's it. For now though, I'm going to take my Wayne Goss holiday brush from 2017. It's a small tier tapered brush. I take the excess on my palm and I lightly press. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. That's all the powder I need. I find that sometimes my mascara smudges, but I just do that and it's fine. Dermablend is a powder I used to use. This is in the shade Cool Beige. I would rely like on a heavily pigmented loose powder to set the rest of my face with. I don't remember if I would press it into my skin with the sponge or if I used a brush, but we're gonna use an old brush. An old favorite of mine, the Luxie 520. This is a synthetic brush, and with that, I'm pouring a little bit of the Dermabrand loose powder in Cool Beige. I'm gonna take some with my brush, and what I used to do is I just press it onto my skin. Now, the standout difference I feel when it comes to synthetic and natural hairbrush is that natural hairbrush is going to leave behind a smoother finish of powder because natural hair has cuticles, the pigments lodge into the cuticles, and they just spread a little more smoother. I find this brush is great. If you are in the market for a synthetic powder brush, I think the Luxie one is great. It's surprising how I feel the bristles. I feel the bristles when I do this. It's like a little prickly. I've gotten so, I'm spoiled friends. Going in with my pat powder for the rest of my today face. Bronzer. Have to go in with the classic Luxie and Jasmine collab brush. This is in 518, excuse me. So I believe this brush shape is still available, but just not in this design. Maybe it is. I don't really know. Going in with the, I'm actually gonna go in with Hula. This is kind of unfair. I should pick a bigger palette pan. I'm gonna dip the brush in, tap some off, and go in with the bronzer. This was one of my favorite brushes to use to apply bronzer. It was really fluffy, but it was kind of tapered. So the side, you see that I get the product on, nudges really nicely in the cheekbone area. And then I'm just gonna put a little more here on the temple. Right now, my brush of choice is the Refer bronzer brush. I actually freshly washed it last night. So this is how it looks like. It fluffed out a little bit. It also has that same tapered feel. Going in a little bit, tap off excess, and then get in there. In terms of feel, I just think the bristles slide across the skin better with a natural hair brush, whereas I feel like the synthetic, it skips a little bit. So I'm not sure if you can see the difference. So this is how the bronzer looks. It's kind of hard to see, maybe, okay. So it just looks a little more textured, whereas I feel this looks a little smoother and the product color just kind of distributed better overall. But typically this side always ends up looking better than this side for some reason, I guess because of how my arm crosses. But that is the bronzer part. So here we are with over highlighted under eyes. I'm actually, but wait. What I used to do, I would take more of my Laura powder. I will take the makeup sponge that we used to apply the concealer and powder with, and then I will carve under. I used to cream contour as well, but I'm just like, I don't think I even have those products anymore. I used to do some of that too. Why not? Now I don't do any of that. I just leave it as it is. For the eyes, I think I was pretty consistent in using concealer for primer. I, for the life of me, cannot find my Too Faced Born This Way concealer that I used to rely heavily on for my eye base. Now I've been using my Shiseido, and I know I'm cheating a little bit, but because of the fact that I just can't find my Too Faced, I'm putting the Shiseido on both eyes because we're gonna use, yes, you guessed it, different eye brushes. So let's buff that out. Now I'm often asked, what is the big difference between, let's say, a Smith brush and a Hakuhodo brush? Well, this is a Refer brush. This is their number 16. I watched this yesterday, okay? So this is how the bristles look. This is a Smith brush. This is They're 232. Look at how the Rephr one looks and look how the Smith one looks. It looks like it got electrocuted. And you could just see how the bristles on the Rephr moves versus like the Smith. It's just like bleh, and this like, oh yes. It's a lot smoother. It's not as like crazy. Anyway, I'm leveling the playing field here, friends. I'm going in with ColourPop's Bare Necessities. If you want a review on this palette, well, let me know. Now, I always used to go in with my transition shade as I do now, so there's nothing really different about that. I'm gonna go in with this mauve row. So I'll take this shade first and use my 232. Oh, that feels so rough, but not too bad. It feels a little rough, but it's gliding across the skin well enough. Going with my Rephr brush now on this side. I just like how it's tapered a little more. Am I using the same color? I switched colors and let me use the same color. Forgot what color I was using. The standout difference is that it doesn't feel as scratchy and it just glides really nicely in the eye socket and it blends the product faster. All right, transition shade done. This is a Morphe M514. I watched this last night. This is a Hakuhodo B142. You could just look at the difference of the bristles. I washed my Hakuhodo one last night as well. So I would go in with this type of brush for the more intense shade, and I will use this type of brush for the more intense shade on that eye. So let's go in with this shade. I'm gonna just pat that onto the V. The M514 is fine. It's small enough to get into my outer V. It goes into my hip socket, my eye socket. Someone's still teaching class in their head. Doesn't look too bad. This is the B142 from Hakuhodo. I'm just placing it there and using circular motions to deposit the color. And this is the third time I'm going in, as I also did with the Morphe side. So this is how the Hakuhodo side looks, and this is how the Morphe side looks. Now you can see, I feel because of how splayed the brush is, it was harder to control just the overall application of color. Now from afar it looks fine, but if you really wanted to dive into the nitty-gritty, you can see how this looks more precisely placed. Or not. I am definitely more biased because I just feel my eyeshadow blend has improved significantly, and I feel it's due to the fact that I invested in better brushes. This is another one I used to love. It's the Smith 230, and I'm going to take one of these like glittery matte shades and just take it under the lash line here. Taking my Hakuhodo brush and pulling it. This brush shape is totally different. The Hakuhodo one is more tapered, whereas the Smith is rounder at the top, so not as ideal of a shape to place color on the lower lash line with. Another favorite of mine, this is the Wayne Goss number 16 that I just use to blur out the edges. And this is my Smith brush to blur out the edges on this eye. Putting in a little more of the transition shade on my Today eye. What I like about a tapered brush is that it allows for more control versus a brush that's much fluffier in size, right? So because it's fluffier in size, it's going to deposit more product at one time. I just like a little more control, but you know, this isn't a bad brush. It's rough, but it's not too bad. For my Today, using my Synergy Worker Pro with the shimmer shade here. I'm gonna take that right over the lid. This is actually one of my favorites. It's the Zoeva 232 Luxe, what is this called? Luxe Classic Shader. With that same shimmer shade, I'm gonna put it over the lid. Now, I typically rather apply ColourPop shimmers with my finger. I just feel they have better payoff like that. But the Zoeva brush, I've always really loved. I think it's a mixture between synthetic and natural, so it's best of both worlds. Going back in to add a little more color here. Going back on this eye to add more color here. This is a Morphe M514. It used to be a general like big blender favorite of mine. Pencil brush, it would have been like, I think it was a Morphe brush. It was like a small pencil brush. I don't know where it is. I'm going in with a smaller Zoeva brush. This is the 234 Smoky shader. The other one was the Classic shader. I'm going in with one of ColourPop's lighter shimmer shades. I'm going to use the same brush for both eyes. I will say that the smaller pencil brush from my current collection is a lot more precise and smaller. I had a Morphe brush that was like the same shape as this, but it was synthetic. All right, eyes are done, so let's wipe this off. Another brush I really like to use was the Luxie 660. This was a foundation brush, but I really love the size of it, especially for this type of task, to whisk away the excess loose powder. And for blush, what can we do for blush? I have my Shiseido Inner Glow Cheek Powder in Alpine Glow here, 06. I always used to use this Morphe brush. It was the E4. Oh my God, E4. Here we go. And for today's look, I definitely have to go in the Sonia G Beauty Pro. I know, how dare I use a Sonia brush together with the Morphe brush. I don't even want to say it out loud, it's too much. It definitely picked up more color. I mean, I went in twice with the Morphe as one as well, but I feel like because this is natural hair, it's gonna pick up more product. For highlight, oh my goodness me. Do I even have a highlighting brush? Well, I have this one. Let's try the Natasha Denona Super Glow. Just put that on the cheekbones. Now going in with my Sonia G Sculpt 2. Same Super Glow. Just pat that right on the cheekbones. A little bit above here as well. Put it right above the brow. We got a buff. I never used to buff. I actually used to spritz, so we could spray down the amount of powder we use. I don't spritz anymore because I don't want to dismantle my sunscreen shield, usually on a real life situation. Taking my Wingos holiday brush in with the Hourglass, the leftover powder that's in there, and just whip it around. Whip it around. Put on some Natasha's Noah. I'm just gonna leave the lips the same. I'm just gonna leave them the same. Apply just a little more mascara because my lashes disappeared with the reapplication of eyeshadow. So here is the finished product. This is the side using the techniques and brushes I used to rely on years ago. And here is how I currently apply my makeup in with my new Japanese brush collection. I want to be very clear, this was not meant to be elitist, to be condescending at all. I am asked what is the difference between cheaper and more expensive brushes, and this is my experience. In terms of the technique, I'm really happy that I changed my application process. I'm happy that I don't rely on so much makeup anymore. Let me bring you in a little closer. It definitely looks a lot heavier on this side than it does on this side. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it looks the same to you. I just feel it's a little more smoother. And keep in mind that usually, hold on, wrong way. Usually heavier makeup looks better on camera than it does in real life. A lot of these influencer beauty people that you see on your phone, they look smooth and poreless because they're either using a filter or the lights that they're using helps to smooth out the amount of makeup they apply. If you ever see them in person, I'm sure it looks a lot heavier in person than it does on your device on screen, which is why I was relying on a lot less and using better tools to still achieve that poreless, smooth look. Now, there's nothing wrong with this. I feel this has a place if, again, you are performing, if you are being photographed, right? The more makeup you have on, the more dimension your face will have on the photo, whereas something softer may not pick up as well. But just remember, the heavy makeup technique is not appropriate for all circumstances, and I feel it definitely has a place in certain situations. I am so happy with my new brushes. I've been saying time and time again that I feel my makeup technique has improved, the look of my makeup has improved. There is nothing wrong with Luxie, Morphe, and Smith brushes. I think they are at a price point that is good for one that is building their brush kit that needs to start somewhere, right? And maybe you prefer those brushes over the ones that I love. I can seriously say though, in terms of the eye brushes, the older you get, the thinner your skin is and the more it moves. And I experienced this firsthand when I was helping my friend Jenny with her makeup. She has mature lids, and when I use a synthetic brush, the skin moved and the eyeshadow application was very splotchy and uneven. Whereas when I use a natural hair brush, where the bristles were not cut, they were left and hand bundled. The skin did not move. It was a lot more silkier in application. And that is a huge difference. And also in feel, if you don't want to feel your bristles, if you just want to feel the glide of the makeup and the actual makeup brush, it's just a more, it's a more indulging experience, but I feel a better one in general, especially if you have skin that gets easily irritated. For instance, this is another brush I used to use. This is the Morphe M527. I used to use this all the time for bronzer, but it just feels so much rougher on my skin than my Japanese brushes. I feel because of that, it will lay on a more uneven application as opposed to a brush that's just a lot smoother in feel. For instance, like my Sonia Sculpt #1. And that is just my take on it. And again, I feel this is just a little more intense. I feel this is a lot more approachable. I'm so happy I don't use as much concealer anymore. I don't use as much foundation anymore. My eyeshadow blending has improved tremendously, and I owe it all to, again, my Japanese eyeshadow brushes. In retrospect, I feel that overall my makeup application was just a lot heavier before, whereas it's a lot lighter. And again, I rely on the brushes to give me that airbrush feel without so much product. I'm also a lot more strategic with how much foundation I use. I also rely more on concealer to blur out any imperfections instead of just cover them up, because again, this might really look smooth on camera, but in person, it looks a little heavy on the skin. But I do feel the spritz helps to take away that powderiness. And again, if you're going to be out all day and you need your makeup to be bulletproof, then these techniques, the ones I use on this side of my face, definitely has a place somewhere in the makeup routine world of things, situations, and circumstances. Let me know what your differences are, friends, between how you did your makeup before and how you do your makeup now, or maybe nothing changed and you still love the techniques then and now on your face. What brushes have you used, the differences you experienced? I'm very happy with the adjustments that I made. I'm really happy with my makeup routine overall. And again, let me know what changes have you made, what you have not made, what you're looking to do. Maybe you're thinking about making some changes. And that, my friends, is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And a huge thank you to Trina for collabing with me on this video. I cannot wait to see what her techniques are and how they changed over the years. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing not only to my channel, but Trina's channel. And until then, I'll see you on here again with another review, tutorial, revisiting old techniques, favorites, or get ready with me. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.